So Daniel Campos and I are having a conversation about therapist vulnerability. Daniel and colleagues are presenting at Argentina ACBS and on this topic, and he invited me to talk to him a little bit about this. So you wanted to start, Danny, with a definition of vulnerability. So you read my mind, because I was going to ask you what definition you're going to present on vulnerability. And I'm going to tell you what I think my definition is, and you can tell me what you think. So I would say vulnerability by a therapist is being authentic with one's thoughts and feelings in the service of a client's growth. Actually, I would add to that when the outcome is uncertain. So when we don't know how the person we're talking to is going to respond. Because otherwise it doesn't feel vulnerable. Like if I were to say something to you that might feel vulnerable to other people, might feel vulnerable for me to express to other people, I know you're very accepting of me. I know you're very validating of me. So it feels less vulnerable for me to share deeply with you than with someone else who I don't know how they're going to react. They might reject me. So what do you think of that definition?
I agree with the definition, because well, to work in favor of our clients is part of our ethics as psychologists. That's one thing. And also, it requires like a movement of courage, just to take a risk to express something that is difficult to experience, and we do it in order to maybe to connect with our clients, and also to help them to express their vulnerabilities.
So you're agreeing with me. This might be a good definition. I just made it up. So answering your other questions, showing vulnerability could be a synonym of courage. You're saying it might be the same thing. To me, vulnerability is a component of courage, but I don't think it's a synonym. I don't think it's exactly the same thing, because courage is also doing something when the outcome is uncertain. And so in that way, vulnerability is courage in session. But I think that courage is broader than vulnerability, because you're being evocative in ways that bring, I think you're more encouraged, you're more specific about what you're wanting the other person to do sometimes, whereas vulnerability is more showing yourself, and there's a big overlap. So vulnerability is showing yourself in the service of your client's growth, and courage may be, you know how in the ACL chart, it's like it's focused, it could be really encouraging someone else to be vulnerable. So my answer to that is it can be a synonym, but the courage can be broader than simply being vulnerable. Courage can involve acting in ways that you're uncertain of the outcome and it feels scary, but it doesn't involve, it goes beyond just being authentic. It can be doing things that are important to you in terms of your values, but you may not. But you may not be expressing yourself in a way that other people are there in terms of interacting with you. I'm not sure how clear that is. That it's not exactly the same thing. That courage is broader.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go on to the next question?
Oh, yes.
Okay, the best ways to train vulnerable behaviors to serve our clients' best interests. I really like how you are focusing on the client's best interests, because that is a hallmark of FAP. It's like you're not just telling me, oh, I want to be vulnerable or I want my client to be vulnerable. You're really looking at what's in our client's best interest, and do they want to be vulnerable? Is this something they want to work on in therapy? So the first step is getting their agreement that this is something they want to work on, and helping them understand how it's in their best interest and when it might be good for them to be vulnerable and when it might not be helpful. But Danny, the best way I think to train anything is to use the 5 rules. Best way to train things in therapy is, so rule 1, you notice, so you get the client's agreement that, okay, I want to work on vulnerability. So you engage in the rules. Rule 1, you look at when they're being vulnerable and when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So CRB1s would be not vulnerable. CRB2s would be they're being vulnerable. Rule 2, you want to evoke vulnerability. And you can do that by modeling vulnerability, by asking questions, by doing exercises that bring forth vulnerability. You can, and then rule 3 is naturally reinforcing vulnerability. So when they engage in vulnerability, to really show up with reinforcement that's powerful and authentic. And then rule 4, when you train anything, you're watching like what's working, what's not, and you can also ask, like, how was that when I was vulnerable with you? Or how was this when I asked you to be vulnerable? What was this like for you? And then rule 5 is making sure that they practice it in their daily lives, like generalizing, helping them generalize with homework that's relevant. Any questions about that?
It made me remember when I have a client, I always have this question, is what this client needs from me, and what can I do to give it what he needs in this moment, right here and right now. I think that is related with what you said at the beginning about asking if, for example, he wants to work about working in with vulnerable behaviors. I think, and also this way of working about asking, do you want to work with this problem? I think it's like any natural interpersonal relationship. No? When you want to work or to have any kind of relationship with someone, you always make agreements. No? So I think that is also a part of the natural, no? Contingencies we work in session.
I feel like you have a really good intuitive understanding of FAP, Danny.
Oh, thank you. And the question about courage and vulnerability, I think I have a better understanding of it, because it implies not also show some vulnerability, but also work in my personal values and helping others to also work on its personal values.
Yes. So what situations or behaviors are obstacles? Obstacles, another way of defining obstacles are therapist ones, T1s, and CRB ones, clients' problem behaviors. So what are your own obstacles in terms of teaching vulnerability? What are your own obstacles in terms of showing your own vulnerability? And then the client's obstacles, they would be the CRB ones that the client shows. Do they avoid? Do they, like, what are all the ways that they avoid learning about vulnerability? Those would show up as obstacles. Right? Do they not show up in session? Do they cancel after a vulnerable session? What? Those are the obstacles. Vulnerability is something to be pursued constantly. I don't know that I want to pursue anything constantly, Danny. It goes back to what's in their best interest, and sometimes it's good to take a break from like constantly pursuing something. After you've had a really vulnerable session, you might want to take some time to do rule 4 and just talk about how was that, what happened, and how does this manifest in your life, or how is this good for you, how was this hard, so you can have a debriefing that's not as vulnerable, and that's okay. I don't expect anyone to be vulnerable all the time.
And also there is we can have clients that don't really have problems with showing vulnerable behaviors, no? So I think,
yeah, and Danny, this reminds me of, Bob and I were invited we were being hosted in another city by someone who wanted us to give a FAP workshop, and they invited us to dinner, and at dinner, I was involved in this conversation that was very, very deep with people, and several dinner guests started crying, and I thought this was amazing. And my host took me aside and said, Mavis, you don't always have to get people to be so vulnerable in order to connect. Sometimes the best way to connect is just to hang out and talk about regular things, and just being together is fine. And I don't know that I agree with that, because I thought it was an amazing dinner, but he was very uncomfortable, and I think that often I think it's more frequent with men. Like, men hang out and do things together, and it's a way of being close. So there's just lots of different ways of connecting. And I'm thinking of clients who start the session and they want to say, how are you doing? And what do you think of this? They make small talk. And for some people, that's a way of getting close, is to just establish a connection with small talk. So I just want to put that out there, that some people are like that, and you can't push for too much vulnerability too consistently or too frequently. And we have...
Do you know what I felt right now? When you were telling me about this story with the dinner and your friends, I don't know, some way, I think this was a way of talking about something that had happened to you in the daily life, and I think that was like a very nice way of have like a warm conversation and just hearing to you, hearing something about your what happened in your life, no? And I think that what this exactly this was an example of what you were saying.
And you reinforced me for it. Thank you. All the attention. You said, hey, that was really nice. I felt more connected to you. So one final question.
Oh, yeah, yes.
What's the future of FAP?
Yeah.
That's a big question. I'm glad you sent it to me early, because I've actually thought about it. And I think the analogy for me is like a universal language. I think there's a movement for like a universal sign language where everybody can just learn one language and speak to one another. And I would like the future of FAP. I want it to grow bigger and stronger and have more of a following, but eventually I don't want 200 separate therapies. I want there to be like one universal therapy that gets tailored to whoever is seeking therapy, so that FAP is just part of the therapy. It's not a separate therapy. It's like you focus, it's just understood that the therapy relationship between the therapist and client is what's most important in growth, and that it's taught as part of therapy, that these principles that are part of FAP isn't just FAP, but it's in all therapies. And that's where I would like it to go.
I think maybe this is related with the ACL movement. Like we are trying to expand these principles to everyone in the world, and that's why I was happy that I could join 2 countries, like Peru and Colombia, in this project. And I don't know, the last time I did this last meetup, I felt that when, even though we didn't know each other, we were from different countries, I felt that we really we were talking the same language there. And I really would like to join more countries and to see what happened. Maybe what can we share? What we have in common as humans in there. That's why I went to try this in this interpersonal lab.
what we have in common as humans, yes, our common humanity. I appreciate your deep intuitive understanding of both FAP and ACL, and I feel so blessed that you're part of this ACL movement and that you're interested in FAP, and thank you for having this conversation with me. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
Oh, and thank you too for having this big idea of ACL. I really would like to continue in that.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Mavis.